Hey there, my gorgeous friends on the internet. Hope you are doing all well and fine today. In this episode, I'm gonna make fun of technologies that I don't like. I'm joking. I'm gonna give you a quick list. This is gonna be a discussion type video of technologies that I really enjoy using and technologies that I don't enjoy using so much. Now, if I don't enjoy using these so much, doesn't mean that I hate them or I have anything against people who use it, um, because some people get offended because they put so much effort into learning something and then somebody else says, I don't like this. And then they're like, why? Same thing happens when they buy products. And then if the product is not good, they try to justify themselves that they made the correct purchase. Again, that doesn't matter. Let's just take a look at the list. So first of all, here's my desktop. Fantastic. I'm joking. The first thing that I want to talk about is Tailwind. I know a lot of people love Tailwind, but I can never get into this thing. I get the idea, and the idea is good. It's kind of like Bootstrap, but not really. You have these kind of small pieces of classes that you can kind of put together like a block of Lego or something like that. My main problem with this is just it feels like you need so much time to kind of learn the whole classes and everything to manage to put something together. So that's kind of the main reason why I don't use it and I'm not a big fan of it. It's just that it takes too much time for me to learn something that I can simply do in CSS, or I can do the classes and I can create my own list of library in CSS for my own specific project. I feel better about Bootstrap a little bit because if you write a class there, it kind of gives you the whole thing. So that's kind of good in the sense that it's super fast for prototyping purposes. But this one, I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. Let me know if you use Tailwind. I will delete your comment. Okay, next up we have Angular. Angular is another example of a technology that I don't really mind. And there's nothing wrong with it. The main reason why I don't use Angular is that a lot of things happened since Angular came out, and the new technologies that are here to stay, such as React and Vue, I feel like they just are better in terms of learning it. That's it. Like they're not better in sense of being better overall with the features that they offer, because all of them offer great features. But for somebody new that starts learning a React framework, a JavaScript framework, I just feel like you're gonna have an easier time with React and Vue. Simply put that way, Angular throws everything at you, where React, again, is kind of just the library. You can kind of build your thing out, and if you need something like a router, you can add it, and then you can learn that specifically. So I just feel like it makes a bit more sense, and Vue is just super easy. So again, nothing against this one, but I just feel like the market and technologies have grown a lot ever since Angular came out, and they offer just a bit of ease in the developer section of things. Okay, fantastic. The next one is gonna get people angry, so get ready. Even though a lot of people are gonna agree with me, but they're not gonna say it. We have PHP. Okay, so here's my problem with PHP. I never had a problem as what PHP can do. Again, there's nothing wrong with PHP. And since like PHP 7, it's been pretty good. It's just I could never get into the syntax. I don't know. Whenever I wrote PHP code, I was like, this is just, it looks bad and it's hard to figure out, and the classes and the methods are kind of weird to write and they make kind of no sense. So that's kind of the biggest dislike I had with PHP. Like nothing else really. I just didn't like the syntax. That's all. And actually, there's one more thing. It was a hard time and hard experience learning PHP because the code on the internet that I found for PHP, there were so many bad practices out there. So I would learn PHP with the code that I found on the internet. And then after a few weeks, I just figured out that, hey, that was actually a very bad way of doing things. So, I lost a few days and a few weeks of learning because that's not how things are done. So again, it was frustrating to learn. So if PHP wants to be a big player, I mean, it is a big player, let's be honest, but to get new developers into the ecosystem, because let's be honest, JavaScript is killing the game and it's the best right now. But yeah, there needs to be a better, I don't know, like search up PHP tutorials on YouTube. Why are people not making them that much? How many JavaScript tutorials are you going to see on the internet? Exactly. Okay, so let's move on to the best of the best, which is Redux. I mean, oh man, like I use Redux a lot, and there's nothing wrong with it. Again, it's a great technology and it fixes a bunch of issues, but Jesus Christ, I feel like I'm a monkey when I'm working with this thing. By the way, have you seen that monkey that rides on the bike and steals a kid? Monkey stealing baby. Look at that. He's he has this small little bike, but look at the force. Like he's not even like look at the size of the thing, right? That's not a big monkey. And the power that they have in their hands is absolutely crazy. Look at the dragging. Wow. How crazy is that? Okay, so Redux. Here's the thing. I feel like they built this thing out without actually thinking about the developer experience. And the boilerplate and the amount of setup that you have to do for it is just not fun. Okay, let's be honest. You spend 20-30 minutes setting up your actions and reducers and store and everything to end up like doing a small little thing, right? So there has to be a better way of managing state. And there is actually, because I've been working with Vue and Vuex, and that just seems like such a easier and more better developer experience. Again, as you can see, a lot of things that I have issues with these technologies is not necessarily the technology itself, because they're great and they work. It's just the experience and working with them sometimes doesn't feel that nice. Maybe one day they will figure out that we are not robots and they will make something a bit easier to write. Okay, next up is Webpack. I mean, this is a tool that you need, especially if you're working on bigger web apps and you need to compile and bundle up all your scripts and everything. But let's be honest, like how many of us actually like configuring a Webpack and working with it? Like this is a technology that needs to be made in such a way that you don't even have to worry or think about it. And that's why a lot of people use Create React app or tools of that sort to kind of get rid of that overhead. Try setting up a React project from scratch and you're gonna see how much fun you're gonna have with it with Webpack and Babel and setting up things so you can import your images and import all that crazy stuff. Not that fun, trust me. I did it multiple times. So again, not a big fan just because you have to worry about setting up your bundle and not actually building something, which is probably the most important thing, right? You want to build stuff out. That's why you're a programmer, not to set up the thing to make it work so you can build. Does that make any sense? It makes sense. Think about it. Rewind 10 seconds. So there's actually a great technology here that does that for us, which is called I forgot the name of it. Parcel. Is that the one? Parcel? This is great content right here. I prepared for this episode. Yeah, it's Parcel. So this makes it super, super easy. Okay, so moving on, we have MySQL, or just SQL in general. Here's the issue with SQL. I like SQL, but the resources out there for SQL does not seem that great. Like if you go on Reddit and stuff like that, everybody talks about when you build out a React project or whatever, a app, and everybody's like, oh, don't use NoSQL, always use SQL like Postgres because you're gonna have relations in your data. And you're gonna have relations. You're not gonna have any relations with anybody in your real life. Everybody talks about how great it is, how awesome it is, and then when you go up and search on YouTube and everything, there's barely any SQL tutorials out there with like React and stuff. Like you're gonna find one or two to-do lists or something like that, but overall, people keep saying that, yeah, SQL is the best, so great, wow. And then, oops, I'm using MongoDB. Don't tell anybody. So yeah, it's a thing. Like, I never had issues with NoSQL and MongoDB or Mongoose or whatever. It kind of always did the things that I wanted them to do, even working with relations using Mongoose. I had no issues with it, so I never reached for my SQL or SQL in general, but whenever I did reach for it, I couldn't really find the resources necessary to do it. And just setting up SQL again seems so much easier out there than setting up SQL. Does that make sense? So I want to see more tutorials on SQL. I'm blaming the creators and the content creators here that they're not putting. Okay. Next up, I think that's the list of the things that I don't prefer. Let's talk about things. Let's go to positivity land right now. First thing is going to be JavaScript. JavaScript is fantastic. Like, as a programming language, this has to be one of the best. Like, there's so much you can do with it. It's just such a fun experience. If you're creating websites and you want to add some kind of functionality to it, it's just fantastic. It's easy. And you can take it to so many different places. You can do web apps if you want, mobile apps if you want. It's just a super evolving technology that's amazing, and it's getting better and better. And that's why most of the people are using it. So JavaScript, fantastic. Next up is Express and Node. Now, out of all the backend languages that I learned, including Python with Django and all of that good stuff, I don't know, Express and Node just make it so easy. And writing that simple JavaScript code is so easy. If you use Express, I don't know what the cool kids are using these days, but it's just so easy to set up a project and getting a server up and running. Fantastic. And the huge library of Node packages, Node npm, npm, it's fantastic. You're going to find pretty much everything that you need. Huge plus. One of my favorite things to work with, definitely. Okay, next up, moving on to, yeah, Vue. I mean, like, what should we say about Vue? It just makes everything so easy. This is the first thing that I remember when I first got started with Vue. Back in the day, when you would work with React and you want to do page transitions and animations between components, it was such a hassle. It was so difficult, incredibly difficult. You had this package called React Transition Group or whatever, and it just made no sense. Created by aliens, by Traversy Media confirmed, just not a fun experience. Very hard to do something simple. And then in Vue, you just went on the HTML tag and you just say animation, yes, and then whoo, it works magically. So they just made everything incredibly simple. So this is probably my top pick for technology if you want to create any web app. This is on top of my list, even better than React in my opinion as far as development goes. Fantastic. Next up, another fantastic thing, I talked about React. If you do end up working with React and you want to create animations and transitions and things of that sort, man, Frame or Motion takes the cake. There are a few other ones out there. Again, I talked about the React transition bullcrap. That was not fun for me. Then we also have React Spring. That made also no sense to me, created by aliens. But this one is just fantastic. It's so easy to write. It works like magic. The API is clear, it's easy, just fantastic. You just add a motion UL or whatever, you add animate, and boom, it works. That's what we want. That's what we want. If you make these things, make more of these. It's good. Okay, fantastic thing. Next up, as a programming language technology, this one is just fantastic. Like, this is how programming should be written. Python is just a perfect example of making everything seem so easy. And I don't know, I think all programming languages should be like this. So, like, I can show this to my mom and she's gonna be like, wow, I can write programming right now. Actually, no, she doesn't. She barely knows how to turn on a computer, but that's besides the point. I feel like this is what everybody else should be looking at and be like, okay, we start from here and we take this route of making everything so simple. I feel like a lot more people would do programming if things would look like Python. Amazing tool, and the ecosystem is crazy right now with machine learning and AI and Django, and I don't know. That's all I know. Next up is going to be C# with Unity. Wow, such a fantastic programming language. C# has to be my second or third favorite with Python and JavaScript. Again, it's just so easy to write. It's so concise. I like it. It's fantastic. And on top of that, if you want to use Unity to build out any games, I feel like this is one of the easier ways you can build out games. The tooling is fantastic here in Unity. You can create 2D games, 3D games, and they give you so much freedom. There's so many great games have been built with Unity, from Ori and the Blind Forest to Hearthstone. You have a lot of diversity, and eventually, after my React course is done and everything is done, eventually we're going to start doing this thing, which is going to be super fun, and I cannot wait. So C#, Unity, all that good stuff is fantastic. Next up is Sass. This is kind of why I talked a bit about Tailwind, and I never really used Tailwind when I have Sass. Sass is like, you cannot write CSS without Sass. Sass just makes everything better. You can separate your CSS files or Sass files into partials. You can do nesting. You can create variables. Jesus, this is just amazing. So again, reasons why I don't use Bootstrap or Tailwind or those things that much is because I'm incredibly happy with Sass. Next up is we have Flutter. Flutter is fantastic. I feel like this is the first library, whatever you want to call it, that actually makes sense of writing applications for me. I went down the road of learning Java and getting Android Studio, and that was just so bad. Oh my goodness, I couldn't even get the thing running. It was so bad. I installed Android Studio and I would just get errors left and right. Ooh, exception error. Ooh, terminal. Ooh, deep error in the programs. Like, what am I supposed to do that? Am I supposed to search deep error in programs on Google? That's not going to give me any result. So that was a nightmare. I couldn't even get Android Studio up running. And I tried it for a whole week on the Mac and on the Windows, and it was just a struggle. React Native seems okay, but I think this one seems the best so far and makes the most sense. However, it's Google. And we know how Google is. Whoops. It's gone. There's no more Flutter. What Flutter are you talking about? We never had that thing. Flutter never existed. It just disappeared. So we're going to see how this evolves. I'm very curious, and I always keep a close eye on Flutter. Maybe eventually we're going to get into it. Who knows, in a few years or whatever. We're going to see. Next up is the reason why I even started web development in the first place is because of Flexbox. Because before Flexbox, creating websites just seemed like a nightmare. So Flexbox kind of saved it, even better than CSS Grid. Like, CSS Grid is nice, but I barely use it just because I feel like Flexbox is more than enough for me. It offers so much. And again, this is probably if there was no Flexbox, I probably wouldn't have started a YouTube channel or started developing in general. So thank you, Flexbox, for making me cash. Next up, if you do end up making animations in a vanilla JavaScript project, you have to use GSAP. I mean, come on. Like, this is one of the best animation libraries out there in the world, to be honest. And they have so many great things, from timeline to chaining together multiple animations, staggering. We also have things that are paid but are just fantastic. Like, I dare you to show me a library that does morphing animation in such a way that GSAP does. You're just not gonna find something that morphs like this and so well. It's a 12-minute video. Like, look at that. That's crazy. Play. Look at that. Smooth, no edges, everything. There's one called Anime.js that has morphing, but it's like, oh, you gotta have the same amount of points in your SVG. You cannot have one more. Are you serious? Are you serious? Whereas GSAP is like, yeah, we don't give a shit. Like, give me anything, morphed, what's up? So fantastic tool. Great things inside. And last up, we have, okay, this is giving me errors. We have Figma. Wow, Figma. This is the last tool that I'm really happy with that I learned, just because beforehand I would build out projects without actually knowing the design of it. So Figma is a prototyping library that you can create mockups of your website. And before that, it would just take me so much time to actually create something because I didn't know. I kind of had the image of the website in my head, but I could never really see it. So I would spend more time styling and doing stuff like that, and it would just take longer. Whereas now I can just build out the prototype, I can see, and I can copy paste it in code. Super simple. So I highly recommend, even if you're a developer and you don't care about design, of learning how to create mockups of your websites. Okay, that's my list. Hope you enjoyed it. There's probably like 10,000 more that people are going to write down in the comments, and they're going to be like, Ed, you missed it. How dare you? Which is fine. Let me know what you like and what you don't like down below. And until next time, I'm working on the React course. It's going well. I think you're going to love it. There's a few, like, we have nice projects in here. We don't have to-do list. Get out with that. So thanks for watching, and until next time, bye-bye.